Right. Let's dive into Alan Watts and the wisdom of insecurity.
Yeah, it's a
It
classic.
really is. And, it kind of challenges how we think about, well, being happy and secure.
And Watts, well, he's really good at taking those Eastern philosophies, those really profound ideas, and making them understandable for Western audiences.
Exactly. And in the wisdom of insecurity, um, he says this really like almost radical thing. He
Yeah.
says our need to feel secure, like that deep-seated need to be in control,
Hmm.
that's actually what makes us so anxious.
Yeah, it's like we're always trying to hold on to water.
Right.
It just slips through your fingers the more you squeeze. That's
Yeah.
his analogy, right? Trying to package water.
Oh, I love that analogy. It's so
Yeah.
vivid. It really shows you how pointless it is to try to make these rigid structures
Hmm.
when everything's like always changing. And that's where Watts brings up this idea of idols, right?
Yes. Yes, but he's not talking about like golden statues or anything like
Yeah.
that. He's using the word idols to mean any belief, any idea that's so rigid that it stops you from experiencing reality.
Okay, so it's not about physical idols then. It's
Right.
about being stuck on any idea,
Yeah.
whether it's about us, our jobs, our relationships, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. We cling to these idols thinking they're going to make us happy
Right.
or give us that security, that lasting feeling.
Yeah.
But, and Watts really points this out, reality just keeps changing.
Yeah.
So when those ideas, those fixed ideas, clash with the way life actually is, that's when things get hard. That's when we suffer.
So if we're always clinging to things, trying to hold on to things that are always changing,
Yeah.
what's the answer? What do we do instead?
Watts, well, he suggests something that might seem kind of strange at first.
Okay.
He says it's acceptance.
Acceptance.
Yeah, he says instead of always looking for meaning, chasing after some purpose, we find it when we accept that life doesn't really have like a fixed purpose.
Okay, so you're saying by letting go.
Yeah,
By letting go of how we think things should be,
exactly.
we actually experience life more deeply.
Yeah, it's like think of a seed.
Okay.
It falls to the ground, right? It has to kind of give up its old form to become something new.
That's a good way to put it.
Or like a painting, if you're just focused on the frame,
Right.
you might miss the actual beauty of the art.
Those are great metaphors. It sounds like acceptance isn't about just giving up, but about accepting how everything changes.
Exactly.
Does that acceptance like apply to how we think about life and death?
Absolutely. Watts sees life and death not as opposites, but as two parts of the same thing.
Okay.
That process of change, they linked, just like a river. A river has to flow out to flow in, right?
Makes sense.
It's all connected.
So for someone listening,
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to actually, live this way, how do we get comfortable with all this change, the good and the bad?
Watts would say it starts by being more aware, really paying attention to what's happening right now without like judging it or trying to fight it.
But our minds are always going.
Yeah.
How do we even start to be more aware with all those thoughts swirling around?
That's where Watts gets into this idea of the separate self.
Okay.
That feeling we have of being a separate I, apart from our thoughts and what we experience.
Okay.
He says it's an illusion, a trick our minds play on us.
But don't we need that sense of I to like function in the world? How can it be an illusion?
He uses this analogy. You know how if you spin a burning stick really fast,
Yeah.
it looks like a circle of fire, even though it's just one point of light moving?
Right.
So our thoughts, our memories, they're all moving so fast.
Yeah.
It creates this illusion of a solid I when really it's more like a flickering flame.
So we're not really having thoughts and feelings.
Right.
We are those thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, there's not some separate I. Watching them, it's all one thing.
Wow, that's a huge shift in perspective. It makes
Yeah.
you wonder. If there's no separate I, then who or what is doing all this experiencing?
And that's the kind of question Watts wants us to ask. He says this feeling of being a separate I gets even stronger because we rely so much on language.
Language. What does that have to do with it?
Watts warns us about taking language too seriously.
Oh, okay.
Words are just, tools we use.
To communicate.
Right. They're not the actual reality.
I
The word water isn't the same as actually feeling thirsty and drinking water.
So you're saying that focusing too much on words and labels, that can actually disconnect us from what's happening right now.
Exactly. And this thing we do, defining ourselves with words,
Yeah.
it can really trap us, especially in today's world.
This is where I think a lot of people will connect with Watt's critique of modern society.
Hmm.
We all feel this pressure to define ourselves, to always be achieving, to be on all the time.
He says modern society is always focused on the future,
Mm.
on planning, calculating. It keeps us wanting more and more.
Yeah.
And that creates a cycle of never being satisfied.
Right. It's like that brainy economy he talks about.
Yeah.
Always stimulated, but never really content.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we get out of this? How do we break free from this cycle of always wanting more, always driving, never feeling like it's enough?
That's a really great question, and it's something we'll explore in part 2 of our deep dive into the wisdom of insecurity. So, how do we break free? Well, Watts thinks it takes a pretty big shift in how we see life.
Right.
It's about going from like always striving and chasing
Yeah.
to a mindset of awareness and acceptance.
Okay, I get that, but it sounds kind of tough, you know? How do
Yeah.
we do that when everything's like pulling at us, telling us to do more, be more?
It's definitely a journey, not some quick fix.
Right.
Watts believed it all starts with realizing that real security doesn't come from stuff you achieve or things you own.
Okay.
It's not about changing what's happening around you. It's about changing how you see it, how you relate to it.
So it's more about finding peace inside yourself,
Exactly.
no matter what's going on outside.
Yeah.
But doesn't that mean you risk becoming like passive, just accepting everything?
That's a good point, and Watts talks about that.
Okay.
He's not saying acceptance is like giving up.
Right.
It's about really being present in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
He believes in the power of awareness, just paying attention to what you're experiencing without
Okay.
judging it, without trying to push it away.
That sounds simple, but how do we actually do that?
Well, it can start with your senses.
Okay.
Like, what are you seeing right now? Hearing, feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Bring your attention to this moment, not the past or the future.
So just noticing the world around me, the taste of my coffee, the sun on my skin, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And as you do that,
Yeah.
you'll start to see how your thoughts and feelings, they're always in motion.
It's funny you say that. I started meditating.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, whoa, my thoughts are constantly going. It's hard to just watch them.
And that's where practice comes in, learning to just observe, without getting caught up in the stories.
So not about stopping the thoughts completely,
Right.
but about how we relate to them.
Exactly. It's accepting that all experiences, even the bad ones, they're not forever. They'll change.
But what about like really strong emotions?
Yeah.
Grief, fear, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Those are tough.
How can you just accept those?
Watts knew some experiences are harder than others.
Yeah.
But he thought even then, even when it's really hard,
Mm-hmm.
you can find some peace by just being with that feeling, letting it be there.
Without trying to escape it.
Right.
I guess that goes back to embracing insecurity.
It does.
If we can accept the ups and downs, the good and bad,
Yeah.
then we're not so scared of what might happen. We don't need to control everything.
Exactly. When we stop fighting our experience,
Mhm.
when we let go of that need to control, we actually become stronger, better able to handle whatever comes our way.
So it's like by giving up control in one way,
Yeah.
you gain a different kind of control.
No, got it. Control over how you react, how you feel inside.
And that changes how we see the world.
It does. You're less reactive, less judgmental, more open to new things.
Instead of trying to make the world fit our expectations,
Mm-hmm.
we can see the beauty in how it is.
Exactly.
Even if it's not how we thought it should be.
And that leads to a deeper sense of connection.
Okay.
Connection to yourself, to other people, to nature.
It's like realizing we're all part of something bigger.
Yeah, something that's connected and always changing.
This is really interesting, and it all goes back to, Watts' main point, the wisdom of insecurity.
It does.
So how does this interconnectedness fit into all that?
Well, that's a great question, and that's what we'll explore in part 3 of our deep dive into the wisdom of insecurity.
We've been talking about a lot with Alan Watts and the wisdom of insecurity.
We have from that illusion of security to language and how it can trip us up.
Right, and that whole brainy economy thing, it's been really insightful. But you mentioned this idea of interconnectedness,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm curious, how does that fit in with Watts' main point?
It's a big part of his philosophy. Watts thought that seeing how we're all connected,
Yeah.
that's key to understanding the wisdom of insecurity. He didn't think we're just these isolated individuals, fighting to survive.
Yeah.
He saw us as part of this grand flow of life. Everything's connected.
It reminds me of that part where he talks about us being like the sensation of the sky.
Oh, yeah.
We're not separate from it, looking up at it, we are that vastness.
It's a powerful image.
It really is. It makes you think differently, not just about yourself, but about everything.
It challenges that egocentric way of seeing things.
Yeah.
When you realize we're connected to each other, to nature, it changes how you see life.
But if we're all connected like that,
Yeah.
does that mean it doesn't matter what we do?
Hmm.
Like, do our choices even matter?
It's a good question, and Watts talks about that directly.
Sure.
He wouldn't say our actions don't matter.
Okay.
Actually, he thinks when we're more aware, more present, our actions naturally reflect that connection.
So it's not about following rules,
Right.
but about acting from understanding and compassion.
Exactly. He has this beautiful phrase. He calls love the organizing and unifying principle of everything.
Wow.
And when we come from that place of love,
Yeah.
our actions show it. They're more genuine, more in tune with the whole.
Makes me think of what he said about charity.
Oh, yeah.
He said, when a man gives bread in order to be charitable, he is as cold as a clam. He does not actually see the other person.
Powerful stuff.
It reminds us that real compassion isn't about like checking boxes.
Right.
It's about seeing the other person, really seeing them and acting from that shared connection.
Yeah, and that's what embracing insecurity is all about, according to Watts.
Okay.
Not being passive. It's about being more present, more alive, more responsive to ourselves and others, knowing we're all in this together.
So it all comes back to that main idea.
It does.
True security isn't from outside stuff. It's accepting that life's always changing, that it's uncertain.
Yeah, finding that peace within yourself.
Right, no matter what's happening around you.
Riding the waves, knowing the ups and downs won't last forever.
And it's funny, the more we resist something, the stronger it seems to get.
It's true.
But when we just allow ourselves to experience it, be present with it.
Without judgment.
Yeah, it's like a whole new way of being opens up.
A way of being grounded in this moment, free from all that mental noise.
Connected to the flow of life.
That's the wisdom of insecurity.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one big takeaway you want to leave our listener with?
I think the key thing is this is a practice. It's something you do every day. Building that awareness moment by moment, letting go of the need to control everything.
Yeah.
Seeing life as a dance, not a fight, moving with the rhythm of the universe.
Finding that peace, that freedom.
Yeah.
Accepting life as it is with all its, messiness and beauty.
Absolutely.
Embracing the unknown, trusting that even when things are uncertain, there's a deeper wisdom unfolding.
Beautifully said.
So to everyone listening, keep exploring these ideas. Try out what Watts suggests. See what happens for you. Who knows what you might find when you open yourself up to the wisdom of insecurity.